In South Africa, tensions are rising after murder charges were levied against 270 striking miners over the deaths of 34 of their colleagues who were shot by police. The men were already in custody over earlier violence in which 2 police officers and 8 others were killed. And now police are being accused of abusing and even torturing those being held. Inigo Gilmore has been to Lonmin's Marikana mine, northwest of Johannesburg, where he heard one miner's allegations against the South African police.
A group of grieving miners sing in commemoration of their fallen comrades. They march in unison, stepping carefully over sacred ground, which 2 weeks ago was littered with the bodies of their dead friends, killed by the police. The coffin of a young miner, Bonginkosi Yona, is brought before them in a ritual where they collect the spirit of the deceased man in the place where he died. They file past their friend in a moving final farewell. They chant old anti-apartheid era slogans. A cry goes up, down with those who kill black people. In keeping with tradition, the miners will travel hundreds of miles to escort their fellow worker to his burial place in the Eastern Cape. As they flock to the departure point outside the Lonmin platinum mine, they voice anger about the ongoing detention of 270 other miners involved in the protests, who bizarrely now face murder charges in connection with the deaths of their own comrades. They're anxious too about alarming reports that police are torturing many of those in custody.
The Marikana massacre, which happened here and involved the deaths of 34 miners, including this man, has horrified South Africa, where such atrocities were thought to be a thing of the past. Now, there are disturbing new allegations about police brutality. Among the accusations that police took miners to the Lonmin mine and tortured them.
Thousands of the Lonmin miners and their families live in this sprawling squatter camp. I tracked down Bangile Mpotshe, whose flimsy tin shack faces the platinum mine where he's worked for 7 years. Bangile was protesting on the day of the massacre and was injured. He showed me where he was shot in the back with metal shotgun pellets. He says 4 days later, police kicked down the door of his shack in the middle of the night as he was sleeping with his wife.
They got me to lie down, stepped on my head and started kicking. They said to me, "Give us your gun," but I told them that I didn't have one.
He says police bundled him into a car, took him to a police station, tied his hands with cables and severely beat him. He says he was then transferred to the Lonmin mine. Bangile says the police gained access to an office where 3 policemen tortured him over the next 2 days.
The police would close the door and curtain so no one saw what they were doing to me. They were threatening to kill me and put me in a plastic bag.
He says he was only released after he was forced to sign a confession saying he had a gun. South African police told us they are investigating these allegations and will not comment until their inquiry is complete. We asked Lonmin for their reaction. They said they reject any abuse of their employees and are seeking urgent clarification from police about these claims. He's still deeply traumatized by his treatment at the hands of the police, but like so many other miners, he's vowed to keep protesting.
We're not going to stop with the strike. Our brothers have died. There's no turning back.
Defiance, too, from the families of the detained miners who daily stage boisterous protests outside court. Primrose Sonti spent an agonizing week searching for her brother, fearing he was dead before discovering he was in detention.
They're beating them. They're beating them. The situation at the prison, it's not all right. And it's our right to fight for our rights. It's our right. It is the democracy. So we ask ourselves, what kind of a democracy is? What kind of a democracy is? We think we are free, but now we are dying.
As hundreds of Marikana miners head to the Eastern Cape this weekend to bury the dead, there will be a brief pause in the protests. But with the 270 detained miners due back in court next week, in South Africa, all the talk is no longer of reconciliation, but confrontation.